Hi everybody, welcome to Psych 2110, which is Statistics for the Behavioral Sciences. My name is Frank Losciavo, and I'm not sure how much we're going to see each other in person, so I thought it might be wise to introduce myself now. That's me on the right. I made this movie poster for a graphics design class I took a while ago. Let me introduce you to my family. This is my wife, Rhonda. This is my stepdaughter, Sharon, and my granddaughter, Piper. She's 3 years old now, and she's really the star of our family. We have some pets. This is Duke. This is Abby. Actually, we don't have Hanapu anymore. I need to update this. Hanapu passed away. It's sad. We loved her. This is Cody. This is Winnie. And this is Grady. Now that you know me a little bit better, let's talk about our class. In this brief video, I want to answer a couple important questions. So one question would be, what are we going to cover in this class? So I'll answer that by talking about why we study statistics, and then I'll just give you a basic list of some topics that we're going to cover. And then I want to make sure that you know what's going to be expected of you. And the way we'll handle that is just by going through a sample syllabus real quickly, just so you have a sense of the different projects that you're going to be working on. Before we jump into that, let me just try to ease your mind by letting you know that I know about online education. I've been doing this for a long time, upwards of 20 years now. So everything's going to be okay. The videos that I'm going to make for this class aren't going to be as polished as some of the videos that I've made in the past, and that's simply because we're kind of rushed for time. But if you're interested, you can look at my YouTube channel, where you'll see lots of videos that I've worked on in the past, and some of them have thousands and thousands of views. So I must be doing something right. In fact, you're going to be spending a lot of time in this channel because this is where I will post the videos for our class. So I'm just trying to help you understand that you're in good hands. So take a look at my channel. You'll get a sense of who I am and the things that I'm interested in. And then if you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe. Let's start right here, talking about why it's important to study statistics. If I were to ask you why you're taking this course, almost all of you would tell me that you're doing it because you need to for a requirement. Why is a statistics course required for psychology, for sociology, for social work, for so many different majors? The short answer to that question is educated people must be able to make sense of simple statistical procedures. We live in the era of big data, which means everywhere around us, information is being collected. And the only way we can make sense of that information is to have some skills about statistical procedures to help manage that data and understand what it all means. So when I say that educated people must be able to make sense of simple statistical procedures, the bottom line is that statistical analyses are reported everywhere, particularly now. Let me give you a quick example. While preparing to make this video, I visited Google News just to see what was trending. And of course, one of the top stories was about the coronavirus, and specifically information about the number of cases reported within the past day. I assume you've been keeping up with news about the coronavirus because it's one of the most important things to hit our world in a long time. That means everywhere you look, you're seeing information about the number of cases being reported, the number of hospitalizations that currently exist, and how many people might have died within the past day. Particularly in today's world, you don't need to look very far to see a lot of statistical information. Let me give you another example that's more school-related. I teach a research methods class where I teach students how to conduct research. And for the past couple of years, my students and I have been conducting studies testing to see if we can use thermal imaging to detect when people are lying. Our results have been interesting, so much so that a couple of my students and I published a paper recently in the Journal of Student Research. Regardless of what field you're going into, you should be able to keep up with the current research in your field. And what that means is, for your classes right now and for your career later on, you should be looking at journals. It's within those journals that leaders from various fields publish the most cutting-edge results. So if you're going to keep up with what's new in your field, you're going to have to be able to read a journal article and understand what it tells you. Well, let me show you a little bit about this article. In this article, we begin by talking about some research on different methods for detecting deception. We talk about how we actually conducted a study and what we did and what we measured. And then at some point in every article like this, there's a results section. You see that begins right here. And within that results section, you're likely to see the results of statistical analyses. It's that stuff right there that I'm going to train you to be able to compute and interpret. If we look more closely, we see means and standard deviations reported. We see a t-test. We see p-values. These are things that we need to understand if we're going to make use of the information these researchers are providing us. And there's no need to worry because I'm going to walk you through it every step of the way. So when I say that statistical analyses are reported everywhere, that's what I mean. Statistical analyses are reported in the news. Statistical analyses are reported in the journal articles that we need to be reading. In order to understand that information, we need to understand the basics of statistics. And this is important as well, because believe it or not, one day you may need to analyze some data. How many of you are thinking about one day going on to graduate school to earn a master's degree or maybe even a PhD to really understand your field of study? Well, if you do go on to graduate school, it's likely that you will complete a master's thesis and or a doctoral dissertation. And what that means is that you will be collecting data and you will be adding to the knowledge of research in your field. And if you'll be collecting data, you're going to have to understand how to analyze that data. Well, that's exactly what I'm going to teach you how to do. Let me give you just a few quick examples of where you may be later on in life. After you graduate, you might actually be involved in some really interesting research. Because right now we're all wrestling with the coronavirus, we're hoping that there's going to be a vaccine available. The only way a vaccine will be available is if people create that vaccine and then test to see if it's effective. In other words, they need to collect some data to determine how well it works. Well, just imagine if you were involved in this type of research. You'd have tons and tons of data and you'd need to know what to do with it. Let me give you another example, one that might be closer to home for some of you. Regardless of your major, many of you won't go on to be researchers, but you'll probably get some job in some type of business sector, and it might even be locally. Well, I'm here to tell you that even local businesses are collecting data and then making important business decisions based on those results. We did some remodeling to our house recently, and that involved having a new air conditioning unit installed. We hired a local company to do the work, Federal Heating and Cooling. Well, after they were finished, what did I get in the mail? A survey, because they want to know how satisfied I am with their work. Because they understand if I'm not satisfied, I'm not going to tell other people to hire their company. And if I'm not satisfied with something in particular, they want to know exactly what it is so that they can fix it and make their company better. So what I'm telling you is that even businesses in small town Ohio are collecting data, and it's likely that you will be involved with that process. Well, that's good news because working with data is fun. Here are some of the fun topics that we're going to cover. We'll begin this semester by talking about basic research design issues, because in order to understand the data that we collect, we need to understand how the data was collected. Then we'll start off pretty easy by talking about what we call central tendency. Here we're talking about basic things like means, medians, and modes. We'll realize that we need to look at our data in a somewhat more sophisticated way. So we'll start to talk about different measures of variability, like the range, the interquartile range, and the standard deviation. And then eventually we'll start to learn about inferential statistical tests. I'll teach you about t-tests, correlation, regression, ANOVA, which is analysis of variance, and chi-square. Lots of amazing things that you're going to learn this semester. Let's wrap up this conversation by taking a quick look at a sample syllabus. As you can see, this is a syllabus from a recent semester. We're still working on the final details of the syllabus for the current semester. But in general, all the projects you're going to be working on, all the chapters that we're going to cover, all of the policies and procedures, they will remain the same. Let me just point out a couple important things. There is a textbook associated with our class, but it's optional. In general, I really don't recommend it because I find that students don't read it. If you're the type of student who's going to read a textbook, go ahead and get it. There's a homework packet associated with our class. I absolutely recommend that you get that. That homework packet is filled with sample problems and sample exams, and that's how you're going to practice. That's how you're going to master the things that we learn. You're also going to need a calculator, nothing fancy, a basic calculator will do. Let's scroll down a little bit. I just want to talk about some of the key information. We're going to have 4 exams overall, 3 midterms and a final. That works out well because it breaks up all the information into manageable chunks. At the time that I'm creating this video, it's still not clear how you will take those exams. We'll figure that all out a little bit later. Here's a fun part. You're going to be working on some research reports, 4 of them in all. What you do for these projects is collect some data and then analyze that data using the techniques that we're learning in class. As we scroll down, you can see a listing of all the points that you can earn from the exams and the projects. You can also see a breakdown of our grading scale. And finally, as we scroll down, you can see a general schedule. The dates, of course, are going to change, but from week 1 to week 2 to week 3, you can see some of the different topics that we're going to cover. We start off really easy by talking about basic descriptive statistics, and then as time goes on, we start learning about inferential statistics and some different statistical tests that I've mentioned before, like t-tests and analysis of variance and correlation and regression. I'm just showing you this real quickly right now so that you have a general sense of what our class is going to be about. I really enjoyed introducing myself to you today, and I'm looking forward to meeting you, hopefully in person, sometime soon. In the next video, we'll discuss Chapter 1, which is a basic introduction to statistics. Remember, if you have any questions, just let me know. You can email me. That's the best way to get in touch with me. In the meantime, take care of yourself and be safe.